Hello everyone, I just wanted to come on and make this video. I've been wanting to make this video for I think at least a week because something really extraordinary happened while I was in Glastonbury last week, and it's a pretty potent message, and I think it's a pretty important message, and I'm still deciphering most of the ins and outs of it, but I think it just feels necessary for me to share what happened. I do a lot of work with water and with sacred waters, and obviously I have the Water Alchemy Oracle card deck in here, which I think I'm going to pull a card from for us today, just on these lines. And I feel compelled to also mention beloved Archangel Uriel, who feels really present at this time. I've started teaching a workshop with the Shift Network, and I'm wearing red because I just finished recording the workshop, which was all about Archangel Uriel and the power of forgiveness and loving compassion. And we worked with the ruby red ray, and we worked a lot with the Vesica Pisces symbol for non-duality to come back into unconditional love. And we also built in the Ho'oponopono process. And for those of you watching on my YouTube channel, the previous video, we do a process with the Ho'oponopono, which is very, very powerful, and which may actually link into today's message as well. Where do I even start? So I can't remember exactly what day it was, but my friend Joe and I had a really strong intuitive nudge that we needed to go to the White Spring. And the White Spring, I absolutely love it in there. It's so womb-like. It's like a beautiful cave-like sanctuary to the mother, and we had a really, really pleasant time and had a real lovely connection with the beautiful water priestess who was on the door, who I must email. But I was just sitting meditating in that beautiful alcove where they have the gorgeous arch of branches, and I got this message to go over to a small altar just sort of inside the door by the pool. And when I walked up to this altar, there were a lot of personal messages for me as well, but the whole altar was covered in angels, as you do. Lots of beautiful, kind of those little putty baby angels, really gorgeous, little cherubic kind of angels. And I noticed that above the altar was a sign that says peace. And to me, it was such a beautiful altar. There was such a lightness about it. There was no heaviness. And all the statues, most of the statues of these little angels were like little white, cute little bare-bottomed angels. And while I stood there looking at this altar, I just felt this really beautiful energy of serenity. And I'd thrown a couple of empty bottles in my bag because we were going to be obviously by the taps for the Chalice Well and the White Spring, and I like to collect the water so that I can put it in my bath or drink it or bathe in it, whatever. Anyway, while I was standing looking at this peace sign, I noticed that underneath it was a tap, a metal tap. It looked like it was a copper tap. And my guides and angels said, get one of the empty bottles out of your bag and turn on the tap. So he pulled this bottle out of my bag and turned on the tap, and nothing happened. Nothing came out. And I stood there for a minute, and I got this message, just wait. Just wait. And I waited for what seemed like ages, and then after a time, what flowed out looked like blood. The only way I could describe it is it oozed out like blood, and it was this deep, rich, rusty red colour, and it oozed out really slowly into the bottle. And all of a sudden I was just stunned, and I stood there, and then I turned off the tap when the bottle was full and put the cap back on, and I just stood there at this altar looking at this blood-like substance that had flowed out from underneath the peace sign. And it felt incredibly significant. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, what does this mean? You know, obviously we all want peace, but there's so much bloodshed on the planet right now. But it felt like something had unblocked. Not just a pipe, but something had literally cleared. And the lovely water priestess came running over to me and she said, would you mind? I saw that happen. Would you mind if we go outside and I take a photo of this? And I said, of course. So she took a photo. I took a photo, which obviously I'll flash up here so that you guys can see what it looked like. And she said, I'm going to speak to the other water priestesses about this. She said, this tap has been out of use. It's been blocked for as long as we can remember. As far as we knew, it didn't work. And I was like, well, that's, you know, it's obviously there's something I meant to do with this. And I said, I'm going to just wait and see what guidance I get. I also feel it was a personal message for me on some level. But it didn't dawn on me until a couple of days later that we were coming up to a blood moon. We're coming up to the eclipse that we just had, big eclipse. And it just all feels so significant. It all felt so significant. So I thought, I'm just going to wait on the guidance. I know there's a message attached to this. And I know that there's probably a ritual or a process that I'm meant to do with this liquid. And I'll just wait to see that if that becomes apparent. And I must get in touch with her because a lot has kind of come to light. And anyway, I made a short video outside the White Spring. Obviously, you can't photograph or record in there, but I went outside and stood by the wall where the tap flows from the Red Spring. And it says, love one another on the wall. So I stood by the love sign and made a short video, which I will share here. So I'm just standing outside the White Spring. I'm not going to film inside because we're not allowed, but it says love one another, and given the state of the world, I was standing by this really beautiful altar with angels on it, and it felt really like healing of loss, like I got lots of energy of baby loss and loss of innocence and things like that. And there was a peace sign above the altar and a tap, and I've never seen this tap. I've been coming to the White Spring for ages, years and years. Never seen this tap, and my guides and angels said turn on the tap and see what flows out. And you expect in the White Spring that when you turn on a tap that crystalline water is going to flow out. But what actually flowed out of the tap under the piece was this rather rusty coloured water, which looks a little bit like blood. And I feel that there's a bit of a ceremony I need to do with this. I've been told to keep it. Funnily enough, again, Evian bottle, which backwards spells naive. We've got a truck coming down the road. I'm going to try not to get squashed. But yeah, this feels like I'm going to offer this back to the earth as a little bit of a purification ritual. And it definitely feels like a symbol of like the blood of innocent lives lost. As we all pray for peace, I'm going to ask to return these waters to their pure state. And then we left shortly after that, and I thought, well, this is really interesting. So we left later that day, went back to my Airbnb, and I'd made a small altar at the foot of my bed on the chest of drawers, and I placed the bottle on that altar overnight. And when I woke up the next morning, something really extraordinary had happened. All the water had run clear, and it was pure, and all the red had settled to the bottom of the bottle. And I actually have it here with me now. And I mean, it's not totally clear now because it has been in my bag and transported back. But in the morning, it was completely pure and running clear. And as I picked it up and I looked at it, the message I got was, the dust will settle. The dust will settle. That everything that is going on the planet now, and I'm just being guided to pick this up and shake it up and show you everything that is going on the planet now looks like this. You know, there's a lot of bloodshed, there's a lot of mess. The water is cloudy, we can't see the wood for the trees, and I love that it's in an Evian bottle, which of course spells naive backwards for those of us who don't know about the Evian thing, which of course again is another one of the distortions on the planet, or the bottling of water and the water being filled full of chemicals so that we have to buy bottled water, and God knows what they're actually putting in the bottled water. But this is all the stuff that we can't see. All the mess, all the muck, everything looks really messy and really bloody at the moment, really awful. A lot of death, a lot of dying, a lot of war, a lot of disease. But when I think about this colour, you know, and the energy of the red, it makes me think of Uriel's ruby ray of deep love and compassion. It makes me think of Mary Magdalene and her red robes and the deep love and forgiveness and compassion that she comes with. And I think in all of this is probably the biggest lesson that we're learning, is to be loving to one another, to be compassionate with one another, to take nothing for granted and try to take nothing personally as much as we can. And I mean, that's what it looked like when it flowed out of the tap. I was literally taken aback. I was so shocked. But the dust will settle. And if I leave this like this overnight again, all of that will go down to there. There's this whole message about, you know, we've got all this discord on the planet at the moment with people picking sides, people going, oh, you know, if you're not for this, then you're bad, or if you're not for that, then you're bad. And, you know, there's all this discord. And for the most part, I try as much as I can to sit neutral, because all the discord, all the this and that, good and bad, right and wrong, all that duality, it's not really serving anyone to get involved in conflict, but there's so much trying to pull us into conflict at the moment, and there's a lot of anger around. It's like when people literally are seeing red, it's like that red mist. But I'm trying as much as I can to sit neutral about all of it, you know, whether you like the current president or not. I'm not for or against. I'm sitting back and observing. I've chosen to do that, because at the end of the day, we don't have the fullest picture. We think we know things. There's a lot of people coming out and suggesting lots of different things. But I'm choosing to mostly observe. I feel that whatever is going on is a good thing. Don't ask me how. But I feel that there is definitely something at play behind the scenes that we cannot see. And when the dust settles, the light will return. But when we sit in neutral and we hold unconditional love and non-judgment for each other and for the world, it can create profound change if we sit back and we sit in trust. And that doesn't mean that we don't take action when action is warranted. Trust me, I've learned that the hard way. Sometimes you can't be, you know, passive. Sometimes you have to take action when the situation calls for it. But I think in terms of whatever's playing out on the news, or where we're just being the observer, and is not to let yourself get pulled into the drama, not to let yourself get pulled into perhaps a fight that isn't yours, you know. It's just a suggestion. I always find that coming back into unconditional love and trust and neutrality, especially in those bigger picture things, the bigger things that are happening on the globe, that as an individual we feel powerless to change or to impact or to affect. Because certainly going to war with each other and arguing over, you know, whether or not you like Trump and things like that is not really doing the planet a service. Whether you're pro this or not, or pro that, whatever it is, there's been so much of it playing out. So I'm just watching it with an open heart and asking for divine intervention and asking for the highest and best timeline and outcome to occur. And I'm staying in absolute trust. And this is how I'm choosing to operate in my life with most things, but especially this. And this doesn't mean that I'm not doing, because I do a lot behind the scenes when I'm shown. If there's something I can help with, I do take action. If I know that I'm in a position to be able to take action, I do take action often. But when it comes to all of the unknown factors, and all the discord, I'd rather stay out of any conflict and sit in peace and create for myself a peaceful world around me. And I really think that is how we're going to change the world. Stay out of each other's business, but harm to none is the remit, right? Do harm to none. I'm just going to ask for a card. And of course you don't have to agree with me either. This is just me sharing. I think this is just all my way of choosing to operate in the world as much as I can through neutrality and unconditional love. Look at that. You can't really make it up, can you? And it does feel like we're in an initiation. So the card that's come out is the River card. Oh, you can't really see it because of the light. The River card is really the goddess. I think it's the goddess Nike or Nyx above the river Styx, and you've got death, the river of death. This is initiation. Look at all this darkness here. But look, the angel of victory flying here with the victory wreath and the torch, the light, and it's just showing like light will have ultimate victory. Love will win. But what I feel really drawn to in the card today is, I don't know if you can see them, there's people going up the stairway to heaven here. These are souls that are passing. And there are a lot of souls passing at the moment. There's a lot of loss of life. There is a lot of loss of life. But maybe in order to have peace, some of these souls are needed on the other side. We're really facing our collective mortality at the moment. But I'm also getting from this card that we're also massively bridging worlds. And for every soul that is passing, they're opening a portal to the beyond. And we're all helping to bridge that heaven to earth, that 5D love and above consciousness in the here and now. There's a real, almost the sense that these two figures, death and this angel, are working together. That the light and the dark are actually working together for the good of humanity so we can transcend. This might not actually even represent souls passing over or dying, but our elevation to a higher dimension of consciousness, our higher state of being. You can look at this card so many ways. What if no matter what we do, we're ascending, we're winning, love is winning? And what if it isn't even a race? It's all part of our growth and it's all part of our learning, but the dust will settle, the waters will purify, and we're all going in the same direction at the end of the day. We're all heading towards that end point of our lives at some point. So we might as well enjoy it while we're here. So again, there's an invitation to just tune into your heart. Think about how you're feeling about any situation or relationship or experience in your daily waking life. And again, I'm just doing that Ho'oponopono prayer daily at the moment, that I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And I'm also doing the Metta Bhavana, loving kindness, the Buddhist loving kindness prayer daily at the moment. Just sending love out, just sending love to self, sending forgiveness, holding hope, and trusting as well. The part of those of us that are the empaths and the healers, the parts of us that desperately want to help everyone and rescue everyone, we're going to be exhausted. You can't do that. All you can really have control over is how you feel. And when we turn our attention inward and really hold ourselves with loving kindness and compassion about whatever's going on. I'm so sorry you're experiencing this. I'm so sorry, please forgive me for coming to Earth at this time. Why did I do it? What was I thinking? I'm so sorry, please forgive me. And I do always add in the extra, all is forgiven, you are forgiven. And when we say that, not to the situation or the behavior, but we say it to the soul, it's very powerful, and it means that we're not excusing bad behaviors, but we're saying, I don't want to carry the hurt around with me anymore. And I love you, and thank you. And finally, we finish on a thank you, and we hold gratitude for everything that we're learning, for this exponential growth that we're going through. And I think on some level, looking at this, we're being shown a massive dose of what we don't want as a humanity in order to learn what we do want. And so many people are now in their own daily lives on a global level turning their backs on conflict, turning their backs on aggression, living from the heart, coming back into peace. And that is ultimately what's going to purify that water and allow our consciousness to run clear again. And really, water is consciousness. It's pure consciousness. So it's like, what is clouding your judgment? This is the invitation today. What has been clouding your judgment? What worries, what fears, what thoughts, what is in your consciousness that you are in control of, that you can clear from your space to allow your mind to run clear again? What stresses, what traumas, what struggles can you step back from that you don't need to be involved in, that you don't need to get caught up in, that are just clouding, your experience of life? And how can you create more of a container of peace in your own heart and mind and really allow that dust to settle? If we all let it settle within and we all help ourselves to run clear, then we can experience inner peace, and that radiates out, and then that radiates out to all. So I just wanted to come on and share that experience because it really was profound. I'm still not sure what I am being asked yet to do with this. It's going to sit on my altar for a bit longer so that dust may settle as a reminder. But it is part of the sacred spring water that runs through the White Spring. Even though the White Spring has a lot of calcium in it, apparently there is a second spring that is a pink spring, separate to the red spring of the Chalice Well, but a pink spring that also feeds the White Spring. And this is quite pinky red up close, maybe it's just that, I don't know, what is hidden in the sediment at the bottom that needs to come up to clear, which is what's happening for us to be made aware of so that it can clear, so that we can heal and move forward in love. And that pink energy, that pink ray of love can then feed into that pure white innocence of the soul, and we can live from love. It's just food for thought. And so as I said, if you would like to do a bit more of that Ho'oponopono process, if you watch the previous video, I talk about it more on there. And also just to say that on the first Tuesday of every month, if you're feeling a bit lost in all that's going on the planet, please come and join my free or low-cost donation-only Soften Circle. It's open to all who need it. We have a beautiful group share. You don't have to feel obliged to share. I know that sometimes people can be put off when something is low cost. Sometimes they don't really value it, but we hold a really safe, sacred container of love where we do processes. Sometimes I share the processes here on the YouTube channel, but not all the time. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss out, first Tuesday evening of every month at 7 p.m. UK time. And I hope to see you there, and love to hear your feedback on what you think the symbolism of all this is and how you're feeling about the situation on the planet. If anyone's tuning in or getting any insights, please share. I do feel I've got a lot of personal messages around this as well, and some personal experiences that happened around the blood moon that I'm also sitting with. But I definitely feel like something has been uncorked, something has popped, and I got this very strong message that in this month of March there were going to be a lot of really huge, big truths exposed, and that we were going to see some really massive revelations coming to light this year. So I also feel like the uncorking of that tap, the fact that it was unblocked, means what is hidden is now coming to light. It looks like a mess, but it will clear. It's coming out and coming up to heal. So trust the process, trust whatever's going on in your life, and look after yourselves, be gentle with yourselves, and thank you for watching.